1867 sports show. We're nearing double digits here for episodes, bud. The big number 10 is just around the corner. How
Here
you
we
doing
go now. Here we go now. We're
now?
doing great, buddy. What's going on with you?
Well, we're talking off air. There's some fun stuff going on in the world, and
Lovely,
yeah,
lovely stuff.
yeah, we're all fired up though, so we got lots of energy tonight. That's for sure. But
Yeah,
we were also talking off air, and we decided we're gonna wait until we actually started
yeah,
recording to get the full explanation here. But you're wearing a little something something on the big old jet ski there.
yeah. So I'm going full Sudbury tonight, and shout out to my hometown. I actually was going through my closet this morning when I was, getting ready for work, and just stumbled across one of my old high school football jerseys. So this is actually, I'll turn this way. So St. Charles College Cardinals, pride and joy from Sudbury, Ontario, three-time city champs back in the early 2000s. But yeah, found this beauty in the closet, and it's funny too because number 65 was the number that I wore throughout my high school, college, and pro career. But this is the rare number 71. So I mean, maybe this is worth a little bit of money.
Oh, there you go. So it's like when Michael Jordan came back, who's wearing the 4-5 for a little bit there instead of the 23. This is a rarity to stumble across in the
Yeah,
Kirkwood household.
so the reason why I got number 71 is because I was a hybrid tight end, offensive tackle, defensive end at my high school. And whenever I was lining up at tight end, I had to report. So instead of reporting, I would just change jerseys and I'd throw this one over top of my other one, and off he went. But
So is that one size bigger than your normal jerseys there,
it
just so you could
is,
put it
yeah.
on over?
That's why I was able to squeeze into it right now.
I was gonna
But
say, my goodness, kudos to you for fitting into your high school gear
yeah,
still, but okay. What can you
well, I
do?
mean, let's see what happens when you incorporate some shoulder pads in there. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like I said, just I thought it was cool. Obviously, rocking the Sudbury Wolves hat, and yeah, just a little shout out to my high school back home in lovely Sudbury, Ontario.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this right now as we usually do on Tuesday night, and as we're speaking, the lovely Raptors, the lone Canadian
Love,
representation in the NBA.
you know what? We've already said lovely Sudbury, Ontario. Let's not use that word to describe the way that they're performing tonight.
Yeah, well, this one's going to be interesting to see how the coaching staff cuts up the highlights from this bad boy.
Mm,
But big news, obviously, coming out of Toronto at this point here. Scottie Barnes, kind of a freak accident. Kaminga's going up for a layup there, and Emmanuel Quickly's foot kind of comes up as he's contesting it, hits him in the left hand, broken middle
yeah,
finger, just underwent surgery this week. Now, Scottie Barnes is the only player currently in the entire NBA
hmm
who is leading his team in every statistical category: points, rebounds, blocks, steals, assists. So this is not an insignificant injury for the
yeah.
Toronto Raptors roster. Now, they're already 12th in the Eastern Conference at this point. They lose their star player. Play in is getting even a faint, glimpse on the horizon at this point. Are you in full on embrace the tank mode, or where are you standing these days when it comes to the Toronto Raptors and how the rest of the season plays out?
Yeah, and don't forget Jakob Pertl's also hurt right now too. So they're down two of their starting five and two of their better starting five. So yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on the impact that Scottie Barnes has on the team, right? He is the engine that drives the car. And at the end of the day, when you take the engine out of a car, it's not going to run very well. So you see where things are kind of landing, and I'm never one to say embrace a tank because it's just not in my vocabulary as or DNA as a former athlete. Like that's not something that you want to do. But in this sense, it's like, you know what? Let's see what we've got on the roster. Let's tinker with the starting lineup. Let's see if we can incorporate some of these younger guys you're calling up from the G League, or maybe giving Grady Dick some more time on the court. Allowing some of these new acquisitions to get out there and show what they've got. And yeah, whether you want to call that tanking or being strategic in your future approach, I think that that's probably where they've landed, because ultimately they weren't going to do anything this year, regardless if they had a full healthy lineup or not, right?
Yeah.
Just the way that things have shaken out, they're in a rebuild, right? And people can call it retooling, reshifting, whatever it is. Like it's a rebuild. So get Scottie Barnes healthy. Let some of these newer guys get acclimated with coming in off the bench, playing as a starter, and seeing what you can have going forward into next year. And then when you've got a little bit more cap space, you can be more creative in your approach, whether it's the draft or free agency, to say, okay, we thought we needed a center. We might be okay there with Pirtle and Olynyk, right? We thought we needed a point guard. Well, now we've got that taken care of, because quickly looks like he's been pretty damn good for them, and ultimately could be their point guard in the future. So, hey, let's just play it out, see what you got, and kind of embrace the opportunity, not the tank. Embrace the opportunity to put some of the younger players on the floor and get some more minutes here.
Yeah, there you go. You're swapping out one word. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm falling as well here too. This is essentially a write-off for the rest of the season. I don't think even the most diehard of Raptors fans is holding out hope that they go on a heater down the stretch and they sneak into the play-in and then, oh, we're the Miami Heat of 2024 here. It's not going to happen. Sorry to burst your bubble there. But you've got some young players who are looking for reps, like Grady Dick, you already mentioned there. He spent a good portion of the season in the G League. So getting him some meaningful reps against NBA level competition, and some of the younger players as well, too, while maybe resting some of your, it's hard to even say veterans at this point because it's a pretty young roster that the Raptors have, but
Yeah.
right, like you're not forced to go out there and play maybe as hard as some of these teams fighting for their playoff lives are here, right? So you can get a little bit creative, see what works, see what doesn't. But if they've got any plays that they've kind of been tinkering around with in practice and whatnot, throw it out there, see what happens, see what you can piece together down the stretch. But even if they were to completely tank and lose out the rest of the season, the problem with the Raptors, with them being in the low 20s in wins, is although they're bad, they're not San Antonio bad. They're not Detroit Pistons bad. They're not Washington Wizards. So they're not sneaking into kind of the top three there, because none of those teams are winning 12 plus games down the stretch to leapfrog.
Right.
So, like you said, it's not go out there and just wave the white flag, but put these young players in positions to succeed so you can kind of see what you do have in the future. The problem with the Raptors, though, is even if they were to embrace that tank, it's a really weak draft class coming in right now. You look
Yeah.
at some of the projected mocks there, right? You got, Zach Reisiger out of France. You've got Cody Williams out of Colorado. He's, depending on who you talk to, either going to be a really nice piece or he could fizzle out very, very quickly from the league. So he's not anything like a sure thing. Nikola Topic, that's not Nikola Jokic, but also is from Serbia. Go figure. Alex Sarr, also from France. So it's a European heavy class. These types of years, it's very reminiscent. Go figure. When the Raptors are gonna get a top draft pick, it's kind of like that Andrea Bargnani year there, where I don't think they're getting number one overall, but even if they do get kind of that top 5 draft pick, depending how the lottery balls end up going there, it's probably going to be a big man from Europe. And you can make the argument that maybe that's probably not a need right now when you just handed out an extension to Kelly Olynyk, and you've got Jakob Poeltl out there, and you've got some of these similar type players. Now, at the end of the day, talent is talent. You'll take it
Mm-hmm.
when you are kind of deficient of it at this point. But what I'm really interested to see now is after this NBA championship gets handed out this year, there have been 5 NBA champions since the Raptors won it in 2019. Your 5-year grace period from that championship is officially over. And listen, Masai seems like a great guy, but what is it like, being honest here? What has he really done in the last couple of years? Because if you do ask some NBA insiders there, there have been more than a few head scratchers that have taken place, right? Like you look at Fred VanVleet, walks for nothing. Kyle Lowry, they decide to keep him past the trade deadline, ultimately sign and trade for Goran Dragic, who never wanted to come here in the first place, was miserable his entire time here, and then Precious Achua. So really didn't get anything for him either. I would still make the argument here that our friend Bruce Brown coming up, like, and look at that, I got the name right.
You
But
got it right.
got it right. Took us 9 episodes, but we're there, baby. But like, what are you doing with him, right? Like, he's under contract for 1 more year. It's a club option. You have to pick it up, otherwise it's a complete loss of an asset there. But are you trying to flip him this summer? Are you holding on to it? Like, he doesn't strike me as wanting to sign a mega extension to stay in Toronto. And even if he was willing to, do you really want to spend your money on kind of a third or fourth option on a title contending team here? I
Yeah.
would say that's probably throwing some money in bad places there. So they're just in a really weird spot franchise wise, roster construction wise, and the honeymoon's over here. This is going to be a big season. I'm not saying fire Masai, but guess what? It's now officially fair game to start criticizing some of the things he's done, because it's been a hot minute since that parade walked downtown Toronto.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that you look at the two phases of Raptor fans that kind of look at the way that the roster is put together. One is exactly how you just described it. What have you done for me lately? They look like shit right now. Where's this team going? You look at the other side of it, and I'll kind of take the protagonist perspective and kind of put that hat on. And I look at this as, you held on to Bruce Brown because you probably weren't getting the offers that you thought you needed to get back for that type of player. So I think what they're doing is holding on to him until the draft, when, again, teams, they get antsy, they fall in love with prospects or certain players, and they want to make those moves at the draft. Gives you time to evaluate, okay, how do we look down the stretch? Do we want to have multiple veteran pieces coming back that can be those leaders? Maybe not necessarily the big innings, the big minutes eaters, but yeah, I can see them holding on to him until the draft and kind of floating him out there to probably bring in an established piece that they can fill another void on their roster with. Which, understand, that makes sense to me. And then looking at the core, you've got Quickly, Barrett, Barnes, Dick, and whoever else wants to be there for the next 4 or 5 years, right? So, I mean, you've got 4 guys right there who, that's a pretty good core 4 that you can build around. You've got a point guard who, he's a slasher. He can, rebound. He can, he can pass the ball well. You've got RJ Barrett, who's, the modern day shooting guard, 6'8", you're right. Can bring the ball up the court if he needs to, shoots the 3 well, slashes the lane well. Scottie Barnes, we just talked about him, leads the team in every statistical category. So obviously he's as well rounded as they come. Then you've got your shooter, right? Grady Dick is known for being able to shoot the ball. So if you look at the 4 pieces that they've got, that's a good core 4 to build around. And then it's just, okay, how do we slide the deck chairs around around that insulated core to make sure that we are competing in the future? So I'm going to give it a little bit more time before I cast some judgment on what the hell is Masai doing. But yeah, I mean, to echo your point, I think it's more of, what, you feel like you owe players after a certain amount of time. You owe them the respect. You owe them the chance to kind of walk out on their own terms, and it ends up hurting your team in the long run. That's why professional sports is as cutthroat as it is, because you can't make those meaningful relationships. Anybody who's seen Moneyball, the mantra of that team. I can't get close to these guys. I don't go on road trips. I don't sit next to them on the airplane, because it's harder for me to cut them or trade them. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's ultimately the stance that I think a lot of people miss, is that it's not always easy to have that mentality when you're immersed in it. When you're there, these guys mean something to you, especially when you look at, you mentioned Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. Like, these are guys who helped win you a championship. Yeah. Right. Kyle Lowry is going to have a statue outside of, whatever the arena is called by the time they do it, and Fred VanVleet, he was such a great story, being an undrafted free agent, coming up to the G League, winning a G League title with 905, and then doing the same thing with the Raptors. So I get it from that perspective too. And like I said, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's done things in Toronto that no other executive has done. So, yes, it's 5 years removed, but there's a lot of teams who'd be jealous that it's only 5 years removed.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's a 30-team league. Only one team can win the championship every year. So yes, inevitably there are going to be teams that are going to be jealous. That being said, I'm going to take that exact point and flip it on its head here, where I think Masai's biggest downfall is he is loyal to a fault. And
Right.
he holds on too long, and then you see these assets get burned here.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown should not be in Toronto, for the simple reason that they went, instead of, well, let's take existing picks and prospects and all of that there and bring them up here. It's no, we want the Pacers first rounder and future compensation pack. Well, guess what? The Pacers have a pretty good core, especially when you're going to go and give them Pascal Siakam as well too, to only improve that. So picking at the back end of the draft, probably not a great idea. Oh, we're picking up a pick in a draft that's already pretty weak there. Not a great idea there as well, too. Pacers, tons of underutilized assets. Go back a couple episodes. I already rattled them off there. Bring up Nemhard, Mathurin, Walker, whoever you want. There was literally all these options in front of them. But holding on to these guys for as long as he did, ultimately, and sounding like a broken record here, could have gotten more for Pascal when he shipped him out if he had gone out last year. Could have gotten more for OG if he had shipped him out last year. This isn't just a Kyle Skinner opinion. It's pretty much the scuttlebutt around the entire league here of, like, I'm not the only one in the, I don't know about that one camp here with our friend Masai. You look at the teams who win consistently, and this is what you need to ask yourself.
Yep.
Did we get to the mountaintop and cool, we got the photo up there and we got a postcard and all that memories, we're good for the next couple decades? Or do we want to try and run this back and become a dynasty? And, if Bill Belichick was as loyal to the Patriots as players as Masai is to his players, they would have never won a single Super Bowl because Bledsoe would have still been their quarterback, right? Like Brady would have never gotten in there. Lawyer Malloy would have still been on the team. So the point is, I'm not taking away from the 2019 championship in any way, shape, or form. Like you said, no other executive has ever done it here, right? First Canadian NBA championship in the history of Canada. So guess what? Applause to you right there. We're not taking away from that. But if that's all you want to do, and we're just here to make friends with the players and whatnot, well, what are we doing? Professional sports is designed to win championships. Do we need to fire Masai? No. But if he wants to stay buddy and so immersed in the culture that it becomes personally hard for him to make these deals, which if you actually watch some of the press conferences he did post Pascal, like he's getting choked up about trading this guy here.
Yeah.
He's too close. He needs to move into a different role here at this point, and you got to get someone in there who isn't afraid to make those trades if you want to be that team that is perennially going to compete for championships.
Yeah, no, and great points by you. And I mean, like I said, I understand your point of view. I understand Masai's point of view. Now it's a matter of, all right, where do we kind of find that midline, right? Because I agree with you 100%. You cannot be friends with players. That's the unfortunate part of the business. You sleep in the bed that you make, right? But the funny part is, like, when you say he's too close, the only thing that pops in my mind is that old Chappelle Show skit with Dylon.
Too close.
Too close, man.
Dylon.
Yeah, again, let's see what happens at the draft. If kind of things aren't shaking out the way that they need to in order to retool this roster to bring in those pieces, like using Brown as a tool to move up in the draft to get a player that you really want, flipping out a pick with Bruce Brown to get a player back that you really want. Let's see what happens. But yeah, as far as the rest of the season goes, this is an interesting time and a fun time to be a coach, because now it gives you the opportunity to tinker, whereas you wouldn't have that opportunity if you were winning quite frequently. But I mean, we talk about basketball in Toronto, and pretty exciting news out of basketball in Toronto that doesn't involve the Raptors for once.
Yeah.
So, it was reported earlier today, I believe, that Mr. Larry Tannenbaum, who is the vice chair of MLSE, what's his title
He's
now?
got some sort of highfalutin executive rank there within MLSE.
The head of MLSE has formally put in a bid to procure a WNBA expansion team in the city of Toronto. So let's get a golf clap for Canada basketball and MLSE for picking up their socks and trying to get a club up here.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see, right, that Larry with a nice office, a C-suite executive with MLSE Tannenbaum over there decided to kind of pick up where Rogers kind of dropped the ball here because again, these are unconfirmed rumors here, so I am merely a conduit passing this along here.
Oh,
But
see, this is when Kyle's kind of he's too deep in the situation. He's using these big words.
yeah,
He's describing himself as being a conduit.
you're,
Let's
you're you're too close to the
you're too
situation, Kyle.
you're too close, man.
Get out. But allegedly, so it was Edward Rogers who owns 37.5% of MLSE.
Loser.
Yeah, he's doing all right for himself. He might have a nicer office than our friend Larry there. Who knows? But uh, he was apparently the one who, after all this talk, you bring the WNBA up north. You have a preseason game. You get the Sky versus the Lynx, 20,000 plus in the arena. It's a sellout. The players are raving about the atmosphere. You talk it to WNBA executives. They're saying like, yeah, Toronto is on a very short list of possible expansion cities here. And then our friend old Eddie kind of poo-pooed it. It just wasn't of interest to him. And that's ultimately where you saw the narrative go from, yeah, it's a slam dunk, WNBA coming up here, to what do you mean? They're not even putting in a bid now? Like, where did that shift? So another little interesting piece to this is obviously Tannenbaum's group there. It's the Kilmer group or the Climber. Yeah, Kilmer group that's actually putting this bid together. So it's a little bit separate from MLSE. And then former MLSE executive Teresa Resch very quietly stepped down from her position this past Friday and is now the scuttlebutt is aligning herself with this potential WNBA bid. So all that to say is they took a situation that had all the momentum in the world and then kind of had the rug pulled out from under it. A lot of Canadian hoops fans up in arms, like, what? How is this not happening? Took us a while, but we got there a few months later. So, like you were saying, they got the decision right in the end, but kind of in a circuitous fashion there.
There you go with those big words again.
Those big words. It's too deep. It's still real to me. Damn it.
But yeah, obviously, I mean, you think with you mentioned the minority stake in MLSE, and ultimately, with kind of a conflicting sense of business there being part of the Rogers family, right? So I'm happy that you hit the point on the head there. I'm happy that the narrative was shifted and they came back to this, because this is obviously something that, one, I think there's an appetite for. Obviously, with the success of the PWHL, you're seeing what the rink in Toronto is bringing out every single game that they have, right? You're seeing Toronto as, or sorry, people will like to look at Toronto as being the mecca of Canadian sports, because that's ultimately what it is. Well, this is your opportunity to not just be the mecca of male sports.
Mm-hmm.
This is your opportunity to start being this beacon for women's sports as well. So I applaud them for that. I hope that they get it, because at the end of the day, this is just going to be another great step forward for female sports, and especially the way that the growth has been happening the last 5 years in this country. So yeah, I mean, we got to start thinking about dinosaur names though, because you got to stay on brand. So what like we can go with the Toronto Stegosauruses.
That rolls off the tongue. Instead of the Raps, it's the Stegs. Like, don't know that one there. The T-Rexes.
Yeah, the
no,
Toronto Tyrannosaurs.
Yeah, I have to assume that if they do get a team name, we're gonna go back to probably Toronto Huskies or
Go with the
something like
Huskies.
that.
This
Like,
is what the Raptors should be called. So yes, get it right.
yeah,
Bring the Huskies because that's the original Toronto basketball franchise.
yeah. So I think they'll probably do homage to that. Now the $1 million question at this point, because obviously it's now back on the table, is when does that happen? Is that a 2025? Is it a 2028? Like, there's no official timeline from WNBA, but like you were saying, it's just exciting that it's now a possibility
Yeah.
again after, it would have really sucked to have sold out an arena, had all this momentum. Drake is in a tizzy about bringing a franchise up here, and he's trying to get on board and involved. And then we just go, nah.
Drizzy's in a tizzy up in the hizzy.
Yeah, there we go, man. We should. When is the 1867 mixtape dropping here?
That is never dropping. I'll tell you that for free.
Well,
no one wants to hear us talk, let alone sing.
Yeah, we've been told we have faces for radio, so at least we've got that right.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I feel like storming a court. I'm so excited.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we were going to finish off with with the great court storming debate of 2024, and obviously this has been raging for quite some time down south. You got Caitlin Clark getting bumped at a game. You had Duke, their prize, Filipkowski there gets run into. Then you watch the replay and it's like, who initiated the contact there? Oh, and weird, he's playing the next game and throwing windmill dunks down, whatever. But you bring it to a north of the border context. Don't know for anyone who was watching, but the OUA Wilson Cup had an absolute barn burner of a final game.
Fantastic
Queens
finish.
And Brock the other night there.
Yeah, fantastic finish. I mean, anyone who hasn't seen it, go YouTube it now. Pause the podcast.
Come back, though. Come back.
Yeah, come back. Yes, come back. But yeah, like I forget the kid's name. Yeah, there you go. Like, and I mean, what a great name.
Also from Kingston, Ontario. So local boy for Queens University.
And like a last second 3 to win the championship for his hometown club. I mean, you can't write a better story than that. And then obviously you saw the fans rush the court because like that's what you do in college basketball.
Yeah.
Now, going to the field storming, court storming debate, I've been a part of a team who has lost at another team's home field and has had home fans storm the field. Now, did I feel that my safety was ever in jeopardy? No, because I had my equipment on and I was twice as big as all these, nerd freshmen who were storming the field. So, but I do see an issue with court storming in basketball because it's coming from all 4 directions and it's right beside the court. At least with football, it's a little bit off to the side. It's going to take these people a little bit of time to get to the field.
There's a railing they got to jump or something.
Yeah,
to get there.
yeah. And so, I mean, there's a little bit of a buffer there. With basketball, you're pretty much right on top of the court, right? So you can storm it from anywhere. So I see some safety issues with that. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video of the University of Alabama security staff who was training for court storming security protocols. It was pretty cool, actually. It looked very regimented.
Imagine getting that email though. Hey, Kyle, we're gonna need you to come in next Wednesday to hold a rope. No one's gonna be there. We're just gonna practice scampering around an empty arena for a couple hours.
Practice formations, but yeah, I would be okay if they were to say no court storming whatsoever. But I also understand that, look, it's a part of the college sport experience. So do I ever want to be in a situation where, you're taking away from that? No. But at the end of the day, there's got to be some protocols in place because just as well as I do, a lot of the fans that are going to these games aren't exactly, coherent and with their full cognitive ability. So, yeah.
Look at you using the big words.
Notice they're all C words too. It's funny. But at the end of the day, there are some liabilities that need to fall on the schools when this kind of stuff happens. So I mean, whether it's you limit alcohol sales, whether it's you limit the amount of people who are able to storm the, like, I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
you know, I don't know how you stop it unless you kind of shut the whole thing down,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. And I've got a pretty distinct view on it, but also have a suggestion that could easily solve the problem in my mind as well too. Is because you think about court storm is not a recent phenomenon. Like
no,
it's been around for decades. Your grandfather who went to whatever USC in the 1950s, like there was court storming going on there. So it's not like this is some recent development. Like, and I'm sure someone would be able to pull a headline somewhere where someone got punched or something like that. But there's not been any national story of like, here's Duke's star player got trampled to death. Like there's not been any crazy instances. What needs to stop happening is these Power 5 conference schools who are not doormats by any stretch of the imagination, court storming when they're beating a team that's maybe a couple spots higher than them in the rank. Like there's a time and a place. You win a championship, your Appalachian State beating Michigan, storm the field, like stuff like that. So it needs to be reserved for big moments that deserve the
yeah,
fans being out there and losing their mind, like winning, the OUA championship on a last second buzzer beater for the first gold medal in God knows how long at Queen's University there.
yeah,
So there's a time and a place for it, but the simple solution, at least when it comes to basketball, is again, you don't need to have the Alabama staff making this crazy perimeter drill form. Like, have it behind the visitors bench. Like, literally,
yeah,
just guide them out and just shepherd them out.
yeah,
They're the only ones you need to worry about, right? Like, the people that
yeah,
are storming the court are there to party with the home team and jump around and do all that. So, if all right, we just lost on a buzzer beater, just get back to your bench, and then you kind of get bubbled back to your locker room. Like, problem solved in my mind. So,
yeah.
I think it's just getting made more a bigger deal than it needs to get made out of, with a pretty simple solution in my mind.
Yeah, and I like that solution for sure. And I think where I was going with my point is the reason why it's more of an issue now is because you have a lot of these little shit wannabe influencers
Yeah.
who they get on the field and they take these liberties because they know that if one of the players or coaches hits them back, well, oh, this is a lawsuit. I've got it on video, yada yada yada. So that's the issue that you run into. So what I suggest to go along with your proposal is
Shoulder
if
pads
you
for
are
everyone.
well, it's kind of along those lines. If you are going to be that person who initiates contact with an opposing member of, staff, players, whatever it may be, they are allowed to have one free swing at you.
Yeah.
Problem solved. That
Yeah.
will never happen again. I'll tell you that for free. So I think with your proposal mixed with mine, I think we've got it all figured out here, pal.
Yeah. But between stadium security and freebie punching, we're on to something here.
Well, I'm just saying, you'll see a rapid decline in the bravery of these people who are storming the court if they're sitting there having to take one free shot for one of
From a
these
six foot
athletes.
eight monster. Yeah. Well, let's turn in the hardwood for maybe a little baseball news, because there have been a
Yeah, why not?
few happenings in the world of baseball. So
A doings and a transpirans.
yeah, exactly. So we've got two main ones that we kind of wanted to focus on. The first one being the Joey Votto, 40 years old, beloved Canadian baseball icon, NL MVP, fringe Hall of Fame candidacy. We can talk about that a little bit more in a minute there, but currently without a team. So spring training obviously underway at this point, and the desire still seems to be there from his part, but finds himself without a contract at this point. So, do you think it's just, hey, time to hang him up, Joey. Like, he's probably got a future in broadcasting, because if you've ever watched any of his interviews, pretty personable guy.
Oh yeah.
Or you can just go and sit on a beach for a year and just rest them weary bones if he wants to. But what's your take? Should someone be rolling the dice on Votto, given his advanced age, or has Father Time finally caught up with him?
I mean, you look at the landscape of free agency in Major League Baseball, and who knows if any free agent's ever going to get signed. I mean, you get the odd one here and there, but I think that teams are more willing in today's day and age to give a shot to a player in their minor league system that's been working to get to this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame them for that, because baseball is so oversaturated with prospects that sometimes a lot of them get buried because you have guys who are hanging on until they're 40, 42 years old, and they just block whoever that is who's coming up. Now, in this case, I look at a guy like Joey Votto. He's a left-handed bat, which is in very short supply. He's a big personality, good veteran leader, which are in very short supply. And you look at a team like his hometown Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm only focusing on them because I think, one, geographically, it makes a lot of sense. But I also think with the roster makeup, it makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not give this guy a training camp invite and sign him to a minor league deal with with an option to move him up to a major league contract if he can make the club out of spring training?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what's the harm? He's going to sell you tickets. He's available to come off the bench. He can still field if you watched last year with Cincinnati. I mean, there's literally zero downside for Toronto to bring in Joey Votto, let alone maybe 5 or 6 other teams, because it's not like the guy's 46 years old and started declining 12 years ago and is still hanging on. This guy was still swinging the bat pretty well 2-3 years ago. And then obviously injury started to catch up because he's not an everyday player anymore.
Yeah.
So, bring him in. You brought in a guy like Brandon Belt last year and gave him a chance. And you know what? He did pretty well for you.
Yeah.
So why not bring in a guy like Votto? He can be a left-handed pinch hitter off the bench. He can give you the odd spot start to give Vladdy Jr. or whoever's going to be playing first base a day off. I mean, it seems like it's an opportunity that's been missed, like every other opportunity that's been presented to the Blue Jays this offseason.
Yeah. To me, the answer is no. He shouldn't sign another contract unless it is with either A, the Cincinnati Reds, run it back one more year. If the desire's there for him, guess what? Hit 14 home runs in 200 at bats last year. You don't need him to be a 400, 500 at bat guy. He's not an everyday player anymore. But you can't tell me that with how young the Reds roster is, and you've got the Ellie De La Cruzes of the world and all of these phenomenal guys that have literally leapfrogged levels to get into the major leagues here. Like, having a steady veteran presence, very, very important. And I don't think it would cost you a whole heck of a lot. He'd probably be giving you the old hometown discount there. Very similar to if he signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. So to me, the only way he should be considering coming back is A, the Reds, or B, going to the Toronto Blue Jays because of the hometown, because of the coming home, the farewell tour, the, kind of send him off with a little bit more pomp and circumstance than maybe he kind of finished last year, where, yeah, you hit 14 home runs in a limited sample size, where over a full season, you extrapolate that. So that's like 30 home run power, which any MLB club could use. But he did also hit 202 last year. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad there. But like you just said, spelling Vladdy at first, or, have him DH for a night, or, move some pieces around, and maybe Springer's got a night off and you put someone else in the outfield. And like, there's just so many little things. And it's those little things that ultimately add up to the difference between making the playoffs or missing them entirely, winning a pennant or finishing in second place. Like, so it has to be one of those two things for me. But otherwise, I don't see him coming back and throwing on a Pirates uniform or a pot. Like, it would be like seeing Joe Montana in his Chiefs years. It just looks weird. So if he doesn't get a contract from one of those two, I kind of hope he hangs him up.
And I think that's probably why he hasn't signed, because he probably does have a couple of offers on the table, but they're not with the club or clubs that he wants to join. So Yeah, I mean, let's see. I mean, I hope that he can go out the way that he wants, whether it's signing with a team and having one last kick at the can, or just saying, you know what, I'm reevaluating things. I had a really good run, and I can walk off into coaching or broadcasting, whatever it is, and yeah, we'll go from there. But yeah, speaking on the same topic of kind of walking away and going out on your own terms. Former Blue Jay great, and I'll call him a great because he did have a huge impact on the scope of the franchise. Josh Donaldson just hung up his cleats today. So let's get a golf clap for the bringer of rain, Josh Donaldson.
Sunny skies ahead. Rain clouds are gone.
Yeah, rain clouds are gone, and but you look back at the tenure that he had in his MLB career. Kind of a very short spurt of dominance, but man, what a fun time seeing him play for the Toronto Blue Jays during their run in the mid 2010s with Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion, and that group, and really kind of bringing baseball in Toronto back to relevancy and getting that atmosphere on a Blue Jays home night, rocking again at the Sky Dome. So I love. I mean, I'll always call it the Sky Dome. I know it's called the Rogers Center. It's the Sky Dome to me.
Listen, Mr. Rogers, if you didn't want a WNBA team, it's the Sky Dome to us.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I know a lot of people are rubbed the wrong way by his attitude, his personality, and yeah, that might be. He might be an asshole and that kind of thing off the field. But look, you want guys like that on your team because you hate playing against them. Yeah. So for everything that he did for baseball in Toronto, I applaud the success that he had, and definitely bounced around like we were just saying we don't want to happen to Joey Votto. So hopefully he finds some peace and can kind of look back at his career fondly, and again maybe rock a Blue Jays cap every now and again to show some love for the big club.
Yeah. And, I had an opportunity about a year ago there to actually talk to John Gibbons, obviously the manager during those 2010 kind of runs for the playoffs and all of that. And you hit the nail on the head right there where, he was a big personality that you hated playing against. Gibby actually said like he was an asshole, but he was our asshole. And so we loved him, right? And I think Blue Jays fans, obviously when he was out there with Oakland, you didn't get a ton of opportunities to really see him, right? Playing on the West Coast, for a team that largely struggles year in, year out. So
what are you talking about?
Oh yeah. Oakland A's, there. Moneyball. They made a movie about him. How bad could they be, right?
The Las Vegas A's, soon to be.
Yeah. Wow. Did you see the renderings of their new stadium? It looks like the Sydney Opera House is coming to the desert.
I literally said the same thing when I saw it, but I mean, beautiful facility. But we digress. Back to Mr. Donaldson.
Getting back to our friend Mr. Donaldson there, but I think Blue Jays fans kind of realize like, guy is a little bit annoying to play against when he did move on to the Yankees and they were seeing him multiple times a year, right? Like he wasn't shy about chirping other players. He wasn't shy about trading barbs in the media. He wasn't shy about arguing balls and strikes, and, got ejected from his fair share of games, both in Toronto and abroad. So he was a big personality, but you can't look at that Joey Bats and Edwin Encarnacion, Russell Martin teams without Josh Donaldson. He was just such an integral part of that, and hats off to him. 38 years old, called it a career. He absolutely is not Hall of Fame worthy. He will not get in. But here's the question I'm going to quickly throw out to you. Knee-jerk reaction here. More likely to happen, either Joey Votto makes the Baseball Hall of Fame, or Josh Donaldson makes the Blue Jays Ring of Honor. If you had to bet on one of those two things happening first, which would it be?
Donaldson Ring of Honor, for sure. I think that the criteria for Major League Baseball players to make their Hall of Fame is so advanced that you literally need to have some of the best resumes in baseball history. And you're seeing guys who, even taking the steroid allegations out of it, that have way better stats than a guy like Joey Votto, who don't make it. Like, how long did it take Larry Walker to get in?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'd
final ballot of eligibility.
Exactly. Joey Votto might be one of those guys who gets in on like the veteran exemption ballot, once he's 20 years removed from being retired. But yeah, I think that Donaldson and the Ring of Honor, to kind of fit with those guys you've already mentioned during that run, I think is something that very well could happen in the next 5 to 10 years. But yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be fun next year when it's the 10-year anniversary of that 2015 run, because that ultimately was that really big time in Toronto baseball, right? So yeah,
Donaldson won the MVP that year, so obviously
exactly
he was doing something right.
exactly. So I think that that'll be fun to see next year. But yeah, I mean, we'll if you were to say, do you think it's Donaldson or Votto?
I think it's ultimately Donaldson, just because of exactly what you said there, where guess what? The NHL Hall of Fame, or Hockey Hall of Fame, I should say, it's the Hall of Good, right?
Yeah.
It's not a true pantheon of the greatest who have ever played. There's some questionable admissions into there, right? Baseball Hall of Fame, they've got more Hall of Fame worthy players still on the outside looking in than they do on the inside. So it's definitely much tougher. Of all the professional sports, is by far the hardest to get in. And you kind of look at it like, if you actually pull up Joey Votto's career stats and John Olerud, former Blue Jays career stats, they're like eerily similar. Like Olerud's like career batting average 295, Joey Votto 294, right? Like they've both got like about 1100 runs, 1100 RBIs, and he's not in there. But you know what he is in? The Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and for that, Votto's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. But last thing to cover tonight, we're talking about guys on the way out of their career. Let's switch it over to some gentlemen and young men who are just starting, on the verge and precipice of their professional careers. And
my God, we got that Rolodex word of the day calendar. I got you, man. You're making good use of it. Right?
I was going to say the thesaurus that we're both reading off of right now is getting its usage, but no, but obviously the NFL Combine just happened this past weekend, and Canadian content very well represented. 4 gentlemen, again, NCAA prospects who went down and were competing against, usually it's 300 people who are invited to the Combine. But yeah, I mean, you look at the 4 guys who were down there, and you could legitimately say that all 4 of the Canadian prospects left an impression with how well they performed on the field and in the meetings. So
one of which, just as soon as they got the measuring tapes out, left an impression.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we can start out with him because the biggest person at the NFL Combine just happened to be a Canadian. So
which is no small feat to accomplish when you take a look at the specimens.
No pun intended.
There.
Yeah, no pun intended for sure. But Anim Dankwa, who is a right tackle from the University of Howard down in Washington, D.C., measured in at 6'8", 353 pounds, which, again, I'm 6'6", 320 pounds, and Kyle, you know how big I am.
Yeah, I usually come, up to about the navel region for you there.
But you look at how like the sheer size of that would just automatically catch someone's eye, especially when you're looking at, I need a big body to bring into camp to compete for one of these jobs. Well, guess what? There's not going to be anybody bigger than that.
You can teach footwork. You can teach hand fighting. What can't you teach, though, Kyle?
Oh, massive genetic size. But not only that, 6'8", 353. You know what his wingspan was, Kyle?
Isn't it something ridiculous, like 80-something inches?
85 and a half inches. For anyone who doesn't understand how ridiculously long that wingspan is, Francis Ngannou, who is the world heavyweight champion and just went the distance with Tyson Fury, his wingspan is 84 and a half. So again, if you're looking at an offensive lineman, this is literally one of the biggest telltale signs of what coaches look for in offensive linemen. How long are their arms?
Yeah. They always stay away from quarterbacks with small hands and offensive linemen with short arms. That's
exactly. And again, Mr. Dankwa definitely does not have that problem, but he had 9 3/4 hands, which again, that's a big mitt.
Yeah.
That's a big mitt. Did 27.5 inches on the vertical, which again, for a guy who's that big to jump 27.5 inches, that's pretty impressive as
I
well.
don't even think I could jump 27.5 inches, and I'm a third of his size.
And 24 reps on the bench. So I mean, with the length of his arms, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, starting off on the bigger side of things, but yeah, Anim Dankwa definitely, I think, left an impression with with the sheer size that he brings to the table, because there's not a lot of people that are built like him.
Quick golf clap for the kitchen staff at Howard University, because he did not miss a meal while he was down there. Good job.
Quick golf clap for genetics. Um, so sticking on the offensive line, probably the more of the highly touted offensive lineman to come out of Canada in the last little while, Isaiah Adams, left tackle from Illinois. He's actually the number one rated prospect in the CFL draft as well. So, showing up very well in the senior, collegiate season, as well as the postseason, draft eligible time. So
Before
again,
we get into his measurables and all of
sure.
that, who is the Canadian scout for Illinois University? Because we got to get him on the show, because there is a disproportionate amount of football players going down and becoming Illini south of the border there. Because my goodness, yeah, the Brown boys last year, and so there's a
Tyrell
pipeline
Richards,
coming from up here for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at Big Ten, MAC, any of those northern conferences, they're definitely scouring the Canadian content a lot heavier, especially when you're looking at CHF players and junior players and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, we should be looking into who the scout is for the Illinois Fighting Illini, who's coming up here to Canada. But yeah, so 6'4", 315. So on the smaller side, if you want to say, for a left tackle, but again, you look at his wingspan, 81 and 7/8. Got a good long arm on him. 22 reps on the bench, not bad. 5.22 in the 40, pretty standard. 24.5-inch vertical, again, what you expect out of a 315-pound man. 8.6 in the broad jump, so showing that he's got some explosion in his lower body. 7.77 in the 3-cone drill, which anyone who doesn't know what that is, go run a 3-cone drill. It's one of the funnest events that you'll ever see. And this is probably the more impressive stat that he did over the course of the weekend. A 4.73 short shuttle, which means that his change of direction and his lateral agility is off the charts. So as an offensive lineman, 100% what you want to see. And not only is he, portraying that athleticism, on the field during the combine, but from all intents and purposes, I heard that he's just been lighting the interviews on fire. He's just such an intelligent kid, understands football like no one else. And yeah, he's really making a name for himself where he could maybe sneak into that maybe third or fourth round of the NFL draft. And, it's a lot easier to keep a third or fourth rounder than a 6th or 7th rounder, an undrafted free agent. So, to Mr. Adams, I mean, you made yourself some money this weekend, young man. So let's keep that up. I'm sure some CFL teams are not very happy that he did very well, but hey, the CFL is always waiting for you in case the NFL doesn't work out. And let's move over to the tight ends now, because we had 2 tackles and 2 tight ends. Mm-hmm. This gentleman I'm going to be talking about, if you were to remove the latter of the 2 tight ends, probably would have been the most impressive player at his position who tested this weekend. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking about Tanner McLaughlin, tight end out of Arizona, measured in 6'5", 244 pounds. So again,
nice
big
red zone target.
Nice red zone target right there. And anyone who's not familiar with Arizona, is the alma mater of a certain Mr. Rob Gronkowski. And Tanner McLaughlin actually broke his single season record for yards and touchdowns that he had been holding ever since he left school. So obviously no slouch. Again, things you want to look at, he's got 9 3/8 inch hands, which again, nice size hand that he can go and catch a football very well with. He ran the 3rd fastest time out of tight ends this year with a 4.61, which is very fast for a man that size. His 10-yard split was 1.58. That is probably the most impressive stat that he had over the course of the weekend. 35-inch vertical, so 6'5", body already with a 35-inch vertical. You're talking about a red zone target. Absolutely. And again, huge broad jump, 9'9" broad jump. So Tanner McLaughlin is obviously an athlete. Tanner McLaughlin probably went from being an undrafted free agent. Now he's probably going to be in that 5th round range because of how well he's testing. Because you look at the numbers he put up on the field, pretty decent. Now it transfers over to, well, he can be a special teamer now. He can be a blocking tight end now. He can put him in goal line situations and have him one-on-one against the linebacker and box them out. So 100%, I think, Tanner McLaughlin definitely, again, upped his stock significantly over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, he would be the talk of the town, if
He would
not
be.
for another Canadian who happens to play the same position as him, who just showed out this past weekend.
So absolutely. Anybody who was watching the comment this weekend, you definitely heard the name Theo Johnson. And why that's significant is because Theo Johnson's Canadian. He's from Windsor. Went down to Penn State, which again has been pumping out Canadian talent like crazy. You look at the last couple of years, and again, Ottawa connection there with Jesse Luketa and Jonathan Sutherland. Both of them ended up, going on to the NFL out of Penn State. But before I get into the numbers, I just want to let you know that Theo Johnson scored the highest possible score outside of being perfect. He scored a 9.99 on the next gen stats, which is the highest of this year's combine out of any player at any position, and is the highest ever for the tight end position.
Not just Canadian.
Not just Canadian.
In the history of next gen tracking stats.
100%. In the history of tight ends at the combine, this gentleman has tested the absolute best out of anyone. So let's rattle off some of these insane statistics. So first of all, he measured in 6'6", 259 pounds. So you think,
again, another large human being.
Yeah. So again, you're thinking, he's definitely going to be a blocking tight end, going to run into the 4'8", 4'9" range, No. Mr. Johnson has 10.25-inch hands.
Like, it's almost comical when they get that big.
He can legitimately hold a ruler from thumb to pinky. That's how big his hand is. He ran a 4.57 40-yard dash with a 1.55 10-yard split.
Which, for those who don't follow the combine or anything like that, like, most wide receivers outside of the first round would be thrilled with that. And defensive backs as well too. And like, these are not common tight end position stats that he is putting up.
No. And the thing is that you look at that 10-yard split, 1.55. So Xavier Worthy, who we were talking about before, who broke the all-time record for fastest 40-yard dash, you know what his 10-yard split was? 1.51. So 4/100ths of a second separates 4.21 40-yard dash from Mr. Johnson. So not only that, you talk about a red zone target. At 6'6", 259, he had a 39.5-inch vertical.
Which, again, put this in a basketball player context. Like, you've got pretty good hops once you start flirting with that 40-inch vertical there. And, these are football players we're talking about. So,
So along with that, he had an over 10-foot broad jump, which you don't see outside of the DBs and the wide receivers. But again, this is the most insane stat. If these other ones weren't good enough, this is the one that really kind of blew my mind.
The best one for last, did you? Look at you titillating
his shuttle. Any guesses as to what his shuttle was?
Gas powered?
I think it was diesel, but he ran a 4.19 short shuttle at 6'6", 259. And for short shuttle, anyone who's not aware, you start out on a midline. You run 5 yards to your right. You bend down, touch the line. You now run 10 yards in the opposite direction. you touch the line, and then you run 5 yards back to where you started. That's what a short shuttle is. It shows change of direction. Your split between your 40-yard dash and your shuttle should usually be about 0.2 of a second. So your shuttle should be 0.2 of a second faster. Anyone who is over 6 feet tall, this drill is very difficult. Anyone who's over 225 pounds, this drill is very difficult. This man just did that at 6'6", 259 pounds, and he did it with 0.4 of a second faster than his already ridiculous 4.57 40-yard dash time. So to Theo Johnson, one, mega golf clap for your performance, because man, did you ever show out. And we talk about making money. You just made yourself a shitload of money. But let's just give it up for the absolutely bonkers coverage that he's getting now.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that they're not shying away from the fact that he's Canadian. They're making a big deal about it as if he was an American prospect, right? So a lot of times you see a lot of these Canadian players who kind of get put, back to the, to the background because, oh, well, they're from Canada, whatever, they were just here as a throw-in or whatever it may be. Like, no, like Canadian players are starting to get to this point now where you're seeing a lot of these testers. You're seeing a lot of these guys who are starting at big time programs and making a big difference. I mean, I look at it, talk about Ottawa, content. The last guy to really put on a show like this at the combine was Neville Gallimore, D tackle out of Oklahoma. And he pretty much out-tested everyone else at his position and jumped probably 3 rounds because of how well he tested at the combine. So Theo Johnson, we talk about Isaiah Adams potentially being like a 3rd, 4th round guy now. And then Dankwa probably going from an undrafted guy to maybe a team taking a shot in the 6th or 7th round. Tanner McLaughlin being a 5th round guy now. Theo Johnson has the potential to be the 2nd tight end taken after Brock Bowers after this performance.
Yeah. Which is really, for those who have followed football for a while, like tight ends typically been a position that takes a little bit to acclimate at the NFL level. Until recently, though, when you see guys like Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid and Bowers when he gets to the league, like these are going to be positions that are no longer afterthoughts as far as, oh, if they can add a couple catches, but mostly block, that great, right? It's gravy. Like you're going to probably be hearing his name in a very prominent way. And for those who actually dabble in fantasy football as well, too, like maybe one of those late round flyers where
pretty
it's
good
like,
sleeper.
Yeah, I don't know what else could I do. Like I've got my kicker already. Like take a flyer. You could do worse things for sure because you are now finally seeing those impact tight end rookies, which we hadn't traditionally seen at the NFL level.
Yeah. But hey, man, like I said, we covered everything that we wanted to cover tonight, and we ended off on that note because, I mean, obviously, this is a big thing. The fact that the NFL gets so much coverage, the fact that the NFL is such a big, machine that just keeps chugging along, and we're seeing more and more of these Canadian prospects making a name for themselves and really shining a light on the development that they're getting in the amateur football up here in Canada before they go down and perform on the biggest level down in the States. So other than that, man, hey, another week in the books, and next week's going to be double digits. So let's throw a party, I guess.
Ah, well, you can put on another jersey from your childhood. I want to see your 3rd grade jersey on you next week.
Well, I never played football in the 3rd grade, so that would be quite impossible. But yeah, I'll see what else I could muster up in my closet. But yeah, I want to wear something different every week. I mean, I've been trying to keep the Canadian content rolling, not only in my lingo, but in my wardrobe as well. So we'll keep her going. I got to get some more hats though. I'm running out of hats to wear.
There you go. If Clubhouse or Lids is listening right now, send him our way. We'll slap him on his mug. Make sure they're adjustable though, or
make sure they're about a 9.5-inch hat. Or let's get the adjustable ones. This be safe.